I'm going to go straight to something that you've shortchanged the global audience on, which is you put prototypes are easy, production is hard in two separate squares. You and I both know that that comes in one sentence.
Listen, as Bloomberg's chief bingo scientist, I can tell you that, a bingo card needs to have some gimmies and some that are much less likely to hit. You're right. It will be very surprising if Elon Musk did not say prototypes are easy, production is hard, of course, in reference to the difficulty manufacturing the Cybertruck, Tesla's new pickup truck.
A lot of these are fun. A lot of these are, at one point you're saying whether he's going to audibly take a toke. But what is crucial for an investor base here? What are the words that you think will come out of his mouth that might inject some enthusiasm or create further routes? So,
as Ed said, we're trying to have a little fun with this and also participating in what is really like a time-honored tradition for both Tesla bulls as well as critics. Lots of investors, lots of commentators have made their own bingo cards. You can find them on Reddit. So we wanted to kind of join in the fun. I think in terms for investors, it sounds strange to say, but Elon Musk's mood is very important. He is one of the most accessible CEOs, probably the most accessible CEO in the world. He talks all the time, continuously. He doesn't hold back, as we often discuss. And so how he describes these numbers is probably just as important as the numbers that he describes. Do we get a sad Elon, a dour Elon, a pessimistic Elon, or do we get an optimistic Elon? And I think that will ultimately decide how investors react to what happens later today.
Investors want to hear what demand is like, but also the dojo, the supercomputer, the AI, the robotics question. Now, this is something we're starting to hear from Elon Musk, that he's might well just take that kind of technology elsewhere if he is not recompensed in the way he wants to be by Tesla. Are we going to hear any pushback on his own board again?
Well, that should be very interesting. And the idea that, Elon Musk, of course, he's very unconventional, but the idea that he's asking for what amounts to a massive pay raise at the same time, essentially making a threat, or at least a veiled threat, as you said, to take his AI expertise elsewhere, it's kind of staggering, especially given that for a couple of years now, he's been emphasizing that AI is sort of core to Tesla. And
that's why the share rose more than 100%.
Exactly. The whole bet here, especially for Tesla bulls, is that this company is going to operate a robotaxi fleet, will eventually build a supercomputer, Dojo, as you say, which I believe is N1 on your bingo card if you're playing at home. And so it is a bit of a head scratcher. On the other hand, he does have some leverage here because, of course, he has these other companies that are also doing AI stuff, X most notably. And so there is, in some sense, a credible threat to Tesla investors. And, as we've seen, the Tesla board has generally gone along with whatever Elon Musk asked for. So he'll probably feel emboldened.
The beauty of this bingo board and card is that it means different things to different people. So the basics for Wall Street are, will Tesla reiterate its 50% compound annual average growth for 2024? In other words, will they say they're on track to build 2.5 million EVs? But for that Tesla owner fan retail audience, look at the top right square, full self-driving. And what's so interesting in the last 24 hours or so is they brought out version 12 of FSD beta. And there's so much chat about it. How do you think that will be distinguished, Max, between the Tesla fan, the Elon Musk supporter, the retail investor, and legacy Wall Street that sometimes just focuses on the fundamentals, should we call it?
So, I would argue that the full self-driving promise is very important to everybody. Of course, there are, as you say, Ed, some analysts who are much more focused on these kind of the question of margins. And I think, basically, how many people want to buy Teslas and what are the margins? Those are the two most pressing questions. But how Elon Musk himself sees self-driving, is it something that's going to happen next year, as he always said? It basically seems like every year he says it's coming next year. It hasn't come yet. It's been a source of continual disappointment and criticism. But watching to see if he ever pulls back from that promise, I think that would have huge effects on not just on demand, not just on car buyers, but also on how investors think about this stock. Because again, so much of the value is about the future and the promise that Elon Musk has, been reiterating year after year after year that this is going to be more than a car company.